Money is a result of creating value in the marketplace. I try to teach people to think, not what to think, and the emphasis is on cash flow. The goal is to become financially free and to live life on your terms.
Hey everyone, Dave Menz, Laundromat Millionaire here, coming to you from Cincinnati, Ohio, and we have a fantastic episode for you today. Today, we are going to talk with someone that I was on his podcast a while back, and I was enamored with his knowledge and his experience in financial planning. He has a little bit different spin on it, so don't run off real quick and say, oh no, another financial planner, because that's not what we're doing here today. We're going to talk to a fantastic guest, and the point of this episode is a little bit different spin of what we usually do. We know that you guys, our audience, are predominantly small business owners and sometimes employees in small businesses. And what we want to do is we want to bring you value from the perspective of how do we help you be a better business owner? We're always talking about how we can bring value to our customers, but what we want to do in this episode is help you to set yourself up for financial success, during your business ownership days and even after. We're going to talk about some legacy too. So I'm here with my beautiful wife today, Carla, and we're going to jump into this episode. Do you want to introduce our guest?
Yes. So today we have with us Curtis May. He is the host of the Practical Wealth Show podcast and the creator and owner of Practical Wealth Advisors. Curtis has been planning for individuals for more than 35 years, and he is passionate about helping his clients save money and live the very best life now. The primary focus of his financial planning firm is to help individuals and families become financially free by following the principles of wealth creation that have endured for centuries. All right. So Curtis, I'm excited to talk to you because we can definitely use your advice for financial planning. It's so much different with being an entrepreneur versus being an employee, and I can't wait to hear your advice. So welcome to our show.
It's literally the opposite. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. My business owners are my favorite people to talk to. And so I'm can't wait to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, we're going to, like we talked about offline, we're just going to dive right in. I want before we get into all your advice and you helping us, we want to know a little bit about you. Can you kind of give us your backstory and kind of how you grew up in your childhood and what made you who you are today?
I was a lonely child. My parents used to have to tie a pork chop around my neck to get the dog to play with me.
Wait, I think I knew you.
So I'm very silly. Don't mind me. Yeah.
No problem at
all. So actually I grew up, I was blessed. I actually grew up in a self-employed family. So I'm from Philadelphia. And my grandfather was self-employed. My dad was self-employed. We actually were in the supermarket business. My dad was like, people have to eat, right? And so you provide a service, and he hadn't worked for anybody. I think long as he ever worked for somebody was like 6 months, at like 19 before he went to the Air Force. So I kind of grew up in that. We had if you're from a city, they call them the poppy stores, like the little corner stores. So we had one of those, and then two of those, and then a little bit bigger store. And then we had a fire, and then we had from the supermarket, a bigger supermarket. And then somehow the insurance didn't pay. And then we went it never occurred to my dad to get a job. Right. So he started another. We went into a tavern business. This is where, if you see my gray hair, is where gray hair came from. I got sick and I took over the bar business. So I'm going in the city where I'm going to get robbed at gunpoint 3 times a year. So I grew up in retail in the hood. Okay.
Oh,
gotcha.
wow.
And so I was always kind of business oriented, going to the docks with my grandfather to pick up produce, and, going to the cash and carry or to the store to, get the peas and the canned goods and stuff from the cash and carry. So I grew up around that. And I'd heard from the time I was, earliest I can remember, it's like 7. You'll never make any money work for somebody else.
Okay.
So I never got that go to school, get a good job talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I always had little hustles and, selling, I'll date myself, the seeds on the back of baseball cards to get that BB gun in the back.
Wait. Was that before bubblegum? Stale bubblegum, by the way?
Yes. No, it was around the same time, right? I had the bubble. We used to trade cards, all that nerdy stuff. and I was a jock, so I was all city and basketball. So I was kind of a cool nerd, right? Because I was all city, but I still had a lot of nerdy stuff I did that kind of masked that.
You were
so
well-rounded.
Right.
You were well-rounded.
I was well-rounded. And so I thought so I fast forward, I played basketball in college, and I realized the NBA was not, I transferred, I got mad at my coach. This is another long story. I'm not going to go into that, but through my coach, I went to school in North Carolina, and I realized, okay, everybody down here, just Division II school, can run as fast as me, jump as high as me. And I was like Superman going back to Krypton with the red sun. Like all of a sudden I couldn't leap tall.
You were mortal.
Yeah, I was mortal now. It's like, well, okay, all right. So the NBA thing is not going to work out. I need a new dream. Okay. Yes. And NBA is not looking for 5'11" shooting guard. So, and so I actually got into, fast forward, into financial services in college. I got, I was always little hustles. I was, trying to, sporting goods store, have t-shirts they wanted to sell. And I'm introverted. So, I mean, still scared me.
Okay.
But my money didn't scare me. And I knew you had to try to do something, but I wasn't terribly outgoing. I'm not like an extrovert type person. Yeah. So it still terrified. Everything about it terrified me, but my desire to win was bigger than that. And so I really got into personal development in college, starting in Amway. And then I got into another thing where a person showed me a check for $400 and said, this is what I made for hours worth of work. I said, doing what? He showed me. I went to a meeting. I was like, if this knucklehead can do it, I could do it. This was 1985. And I've been doing it, ever since. Got my insurance license in college, got my investment licenses a couple of years after that. I in 2003 let those go. So I don't give investment advice. I'm kind of like the anti-Wall Street financial advisor. But basically I had, it was baptism by fire, because it's funny. I didn't learn anything about business. I was a business major. Nothing I'd learned in college helped me today. It was all personal development. It was all really listening to my dad about life and business, about trial and error, going to workshops, going to Tony Robbins, Tom Hopkins, all that stuff, real reading, world. How to win friends and influence people, like as a college student, listening to tapes, cassette tapes, guys, if you,
Hey, and I remember 8 tracks. I'm just saying.
I remember 8 tracks. But, I was a cassette. I had boxes of cassettes. I remember when they first came out with the iPad. Not the iPad. What's that? The
iPod.
iPod, right?
Yes.
And I was like, what is that about? I had crates of cassettes. And he says, oh, I have my whole personal development library in this little thing right here. I was like, ding.
iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Okay, I get that. And I was hooked from that point on forward. And so anyway, but that was the thing. I kind of grew up entrepreneurial. I never really, a job in my house was not a good thing. So I probably did this, went into this business prematurely because I wasn't any good at it. And I barely made money. I had to, somebody asked me in another podcast, what would you go back and tell your 20-year-old self? Well, probably would be is that, Curtis, you're in the marketing business. You need to learn how to attract your ideal clients to you, not running around chasing people around, and prospecting.
What a great business lesson for any aspect of business. I don't care if you're in retail or what business you're in. That's a great
you're in
point.
the marketing business. And so I think that if you don't get what business you're really in, you're going to struggle. Like if you don't get, and who do you serve, and figure out how to get those people to come to you, and then figure out and decommoditize yourself, So the first rule in marketing is, why should they choose you versus any and all other choice they have, including doing whatever you're doing now or doing nothing. And if you really can't answer that in 90 words or less, you don't have a business. You're a commodity, and people shop commodities. Right. And so now you don't learn that in any business school. A lot of people talk about I was a marketing major, and I'll ask them, well, who's Dave? Have you heard of Dan Kennedy? You ever heard of Jay Abraham? You ever heard of even Russell Brunson now, who's like the new, I was like, no. I said, well, what the hell you've been studying?
Textbooks.
And because And you hear stuff like branding and all this BS. You need branding is a byproduct of good marketing. That is not your objective, in my opinion. So don't get me started. But know, I'm my nickname is a contrarian. But I started there, and it's kind of I'm a product of personal development.
Okay.
And
over a lifetime. I mean, you say this goes back to your childhood, right?
Yeah. Yeah. If I look, even when I was in middle school, if I read George Gervin shot 600 shots a day. George Gervin is Kevin Durant before Kevin Durant, guys, for y'all young people out there. And so guess what? Success leaves clues. I would look for what do they eat? How do they work out? What are the things that you could do that I could do to improve my game? And I basically, my sports background, I carry that into business. So I'm always what I call working on my game, so to speak, working on my marketing, working on my service, creating a wow experience, working on your referrals, creating strategic alliance. So I have different, strategies that, okay, this quarter, I'm going to work on this. Just like when I was playing basketball, go to court. If they already knew me, I didn't need to prove myself. I'll say, all right, say I'm going to go left. I'm going to take people off the dribble and go left. And I would just at gain speed, work on other aspects of my game. And I think you have to do that in business.
Have you ever stopped doing that?
No. Never.
Constant improvement.
Yep. You don't stop. I mean, it's like it's a game. See, I want to like business is because you could play it. Like I
say that all the time. It is a game. It's literally fun to me.
It's a game. Yeah,
it is.
And that's it. It's like, you look, I'll say, look, I got a 12-game season with 4 quarters with the 4 weeks. And then any month I don't grow in revenue or, production, whatever, I got beat. That's an L. Okay. And I have to have a winning season. So that's how I play business.
Okay.
The only difference is a game eventually ends. And this is a never ending game. There's never ending. You're constantly just striving to be better.
Yeah. And why? So that you can better serve your clients. See, so if you see, because what people do is what I've learned is actually my operating system is the book called the 12-week year. So my year is 12 weeks. Okay. And so I'm always trying to get better every quarter at the business and I don't frame it in terms of here's the revenue goal. It's how many people can I serve this quarter?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's because what I do is I help teach principles that help clients become and remain financially free, right? So it's like, how many people can we get on the road to financial freedom?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I think about it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes total sense. So give us a really quick 60-second breakdown of your business. I know you have a podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
Plug your podcast, of course, but you have a podcast and then is it one-on-one coaching? Is it group coaching? Is it seminars?
I'm working on group coaching, but so it's so Practical Wealth Advisors. There's really a couple parts. I have a Practical Wealth, so the show, and so I'm kind of like the theme is wealth outside of Wall Street. So I try to teach people to think, not what to think. And then I try to show people there's a lot of ways to skin a cat. And the emphasis is on cash flow, right? So we call it being in our system a cash flownaire, passive income greater than expenses. So the show is kind of giving people ways to think about that, out of the 4 asset classes, right? Business, real estate, paper assets, and commodities. So I don't tell people what to invest in. That's not my job. That's your job, right? So I don't give investment advice. I'd show you how money works.
And you don't sell products, correct?
I do sell products.
Okay. What do you sell?
And so I sell it. So a product is a tactic. So the way I teach it is principles, the 5 principles of personal finance, strategy, tactics, right? So one of the strategies I teach is a strategy called becoming your own banker, infinite banking. We call it the private reserve strategy. The product or the tactic is properly structured dividend paying whole life as a place to store cash. So we use it as a money management system, and we show people how to have access to capital, right? And we don't talk about investing, we talk about capitalizing, so that when you see an opportunity, you have access to money that you don't have to liquidate to use because you can collateralize your savings against the life insurance. So I specialize in that strategy, because not to get too deep, you finance everything you buy, right? So if you pay cash, all that means is you financed it. So what if you could store it somewhere where you could leverage it, go do the thing that you're trying to do, but still have your money making money. So you can literally have your cake and eat it too. Okay.
So I've said this often, and I've read this many, many times, and I don't know that it's the exact same verbiage, but I think it's what you're talking about. I've always said, like, we have a mortgage on our house, and if we had $10 million, we would still have a liquid $10 million. We would still have a mortgage on our house. Yeah. And the reason why is I can take that $10 million and generate a significantly higher return by doing other things, whether it's real estate, laundromats, whatever it is, than the interest I'm paying. And so I see that as what I call dead money. If I pay off my mortgage, I'm not paying a 3% mortgage anymore, but the money's dead. It's not working for me.
Yeah, I mean, so it's understanding what I call the velocity of money, right? So the principle is velocity and utilization versus most people are taught accumulation and put money in silos and leave it sit for 34 years. That is fantastic advice for entrepreneurs.
So I know you mentioned, I think this is where you're going with this. You mentioned the difference between accumulation theory and the velocity of money strategy.
Yes.
What is that? Explain that.
So the accumulation theory. So when you hear stuff like buy and hold, dollar cost average, get out of debt, modern portfolio theory, get a diversified portfolio of mutual funds, you're in it for the long haul, blah, 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 buy term investor difference.
Compound
interest. The magic of compound interest. Okay. So that's the accumulation theory. And the theory is that you can work, you can save all this money until 65 so you can retire. That's a man-made concept in of itself. Okay. And so the whole idea is I call it going up the mountain. So you're trying to accumulate this big pile of money, and then you're going to stop working, and then you're going to live off of that money, and hopefully you don't run out of money before you die.
Yeah. You just hope you built your mountain big enough.
Hope. Right. Good point. So hope is not a good strategy, first of all.
Great point.
All right. And so, but there's so many things with that. So you're saving dollars, you're accumulating dollars, but while you're saving them, what is happening to the purchasing power of those dollars? They're going down. It's like chasing cats, right? The market fluctuates. You'll hear stuff like, well, our fund is averaged, 12%, and that doesn't mean anything because math or money are two different things. So I can show you could average 20. There's somewhere in my YouTube video, there's a video I put on there called actual versus average. And I can show you how you could average. I could guarantee you 25%, but you won't make any money. Because that's math. That has nothing to do with your money. And so a lot of times people will hear that explanation, that sales pitch. But when you look at the money minus fees, minus all that kind of stuff, you've lost money, right? And so, like a lot of people don't understand, like if you have mutual funds don't earn compound interest. Mutual funds appreciate and they depreciate. So it's only worth whatever the net asset value is at the end of the day. Now, I'm not saying there's something wrong with that. You just got to know how it works. That's why I teach people how money works. So that's the accumulation theory. So when you're hearing that, and so that advice for a business owner is horrible. So now on the other side of that, the velocity method, which is if you start studying people with money, or what do institutions do? See, I teach people how to do what the banks and Wall Street do, not what they tell you to do.
Which are two very different things.
Right. It's two
they
different.
Just want to use you to do
they
want to
use you. Right. And they won't even call you back. No, it's kidding. All right. And so what happens is, here is, if you look at Garrett Gunderson's book, Killing Sacred Cows, he also calls it the corporate finance method, right? So in corporate finance, they teach velocity of money, which is an economic principles. If they're a real estate investor, it's the Burr method, where you're getting it below market, you get it fixed up, the value goes up, you refinance it, cash out, and then you immediately go put your money into something else. So you're not worried about buying and holding and accumulating. You need money like speed. Mr. Wonderful on Shark Tank.
Here's how I think of my money. Soldiers. I send them out to war every day. I want them to take prisoners and come home. So there's more of them.
He gives you, here's $500,000. What do you want to know? How soon do I get my money back?
Right. And does it bring friends with him?
And does it bring friends? Right. I want my money to bring back friends. And so you got cash flow. You still have the equity in the deal, but it's cash flow. So you can't eat equity. You're not, just to your point, you're not trying to get out of debt. There's good debt and bad debt. Right. And so once you understand monetary policy, why your dollar will never be worth more than it is today. So why would you give your more valuable today dollars to the bank where they're basically 2-3%? That's basically free money. So if you can't figure out how to do something that makes more than 3%, you got other problems. Okay. And so that's what you got to do. So you want control, liquidity, use control of your capital, and then you want velocity. So what I teach is that. Okay. And so what happens is, so right now that has nothing to do with products. I mean, I'm licensed in insurance. So I do, I focus on helping people play defense, protection. Our second principle is maximum protection. And, you want to create a legacy of wealth and wisdom. So when you look at big institutions, most of their cash is stored in insurance vehicles. When nobody will loan Walt Disney money, he borrowed $75,000 against his whole life insurance policy for the original feasibility study for Disneyland. J.C. Penney borrowed against his life insurance when in 1929, when the stock market crashed, to keep J.C. Penney afloat. Bank of America stores. I just on my show, I just interviewed Barry Dyke, who has a book, The Pirates of Manhattan, and we break down, looking at he's a great researcher, and of all of these companies and the billions of dollars of life insurance that they own, they don't gamble money in the stock market. They want certainty. There's a report out by Les McGuire called The Economic Value of Certainty, right? And so you don't need to take risks outside of your business, like in giving your money, hoping your money goes up. You need to take, if you're going to take risks, you want to take risk in what you can control and you understand. But if you understand it and you have control, guess what? It's not risky, right? So that's the philosophy of velocity, of what I call the velocity method. So it's looking at those two and, okay, which way do I have more controls? Because we teach the 5 principles of personal finance, which we'll go into later, and the 3 rules of investing. Invest in your expertise and what you know. Okay. Invest in your mind, what I call your mindset, your skill set. So you're teaching them about the skill set and your network. Who do you know? Who knows you? Is your number one investment is into that. You're into specialized knowledge, right? As Jim Rohn says, you don't wish it was easier, wish you were better. And he says, listen, the winds of adversity blows on us all. You've got to learn how to set a better sail, to use a sailing analogy. And so, and you're working on your skill set, you're learning how to set a better sail. You teach people how to set a better sail and run their business more effectively, right? And so they can make more money. I help people keep the money that they make, right? So you got to make it, keep it, grow it. So Curtis is to get organized. Let's get your cash flow straight. Keep it, grow it, minimize your taxation, all that good stuff. That's where I come in. But at the end of the day, you need to be liquid, and you're going to look for ways to deploy your capital. So I don't tell people what to do. What do you like? What are you into? What do you understand? So invest in your expertise, invest in what you can control. Don't chase returns. Those are my 3 rules of investing.
Well, this definitely speaks to our entrepreneurial audience. I mean, small business owners, that's your perfect client, because obviously we don't have the 401ks and stuff like that. We're not investing in Wall Street. At least I know we're not.
But it's funny. People are always trying to tell you to invest in 401k. Oh, you need a solo 401k. Oh, you need a SEP. No, you don't.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's just a joint account with, well, let's just put it this way. So it's what do qualified plans do? Let's put it that way. They do 2 things. They defer taxes and they defer the calculation of those taxes. So I don't tell people what to do, but I'll ask people, say, listen, do you think in the future taxes will be higher, lower, or the same? Because you'll have CPAs. Oh, you can put 30 grand in this thing. All right. So that's a short-term solution, right? Yeah. But all of a sudden you've got money in silos that you can't touch. is that what you need? Is that the best? I mean, you could probably, when your business, make a better rate of return than Vanguard or some fund manager you haven't met. And so where should you deploy your capital? See, that's the difference. The way I teach it is that I think you're smart.
Yeah.
Right. I think 2 + 2 is 4. And I think that if you invest in understanding how this retail business that you're all learning, I think you just need liquidity to expand, to keep buying new stuff, to get better equipment, to set up bonus plans for your staff and all that kind of stuff. And guess what? You can do all that with life insurance.
And
so there's the product. It's like a financial Swiss Army knife.
I think a lot of times in the business world, us business owners, a lot of us, and I know I have, come from the corporate world. So a lot of times when we transition from one way of making a living to another way of making a living, we don't transition our financial. Sometimes it's just education, but sometimes it's as simple as a mindset. We might even have the knowledge and know we should be doing things differently. What we just believe that everyone has and needs a 401k. And as you mentioned, there are ways to get a 401k like product if you're a business owner, and that is sold to people that haven't really taken the time. And I think that's, Curtis, I think that's quite possibly one of the most common things I see in small business is because small business owners work so much in their business. They spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week working in their business. They are their manager. They are their operations manager.
Yeah.
They are the trainer. They are the interviewer. They don't have time to focus on themselves. And that's part of the reason we wanted to do this show today. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you mentioned that there's 5 principles of personal finance. I suspect these aren't going to be stereotypical, but maybe you'll surprise me. Can you real quickly hit those for us?
Yeah. So let me go back. So why are you in business? The goal is to become financially free and to live life on your terms. Okay. So the business is there to serve you. So ultimately, financially free means if you shut the business down, you're still supposed to have passive income greater than expenses. Okay. So you have to learn how to pay yourself first and all that good stuff. So what happens is the principles are like, and I didn't make these up. I have no original thoughts. Okay. Just so you know. Okay. But I study, success leaves clues, right? So even before people work with me, I have them read like The Richest Man in Babylon, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because I need to get them to understand you got to get out of that. And they're good for who they are designed to work with. But the Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman stuff, you can't do that stuff and be an entrepreneur. You're all, it's not the same message. Okay.
It'll be self-sabotage.
It'll be self-sabotage. You got to understand that. So the principles are, so the first principle is save. Like I'll ask people, out of the people on the Forbes 400, how many people do you think actually inherited money? And a lot of people, 50%, they think all these people have all this money. And I said, no, it's like 8%. So how did they get there if they didn't inherit it? Because most wealth is first generation, like your listeners, right? And so you have to work and earn, and you got to save, under consume. Now, and I'm talking about, you can't save your way to wealth, but the verb of part of all you earn is yours to keep. That's a philosophy. It's rather The Richest Man in Babylon. And so for business owners, I'm talking about your gross income. Okay. So it should be, we say 15%. So if you're making 200,000, that's 30 grand a year. You should be saving. Part of all you earn is yours to keep. Okay.
But what are we supposed to do with it? If we're not supposed to just sit it in a silo, right?
No, we ain't got that part yet.
Okay.
So right now.
Okay. So we get this 30,000. All right.
So you get, but see,
forgive my
steps.
overly enthusiastic.
I know. I'm like, I thought you said
here's
don't
the thing.
save.
We're going to show you where to put it. But first is the habit. See, most people don't have the habit. So a lot of times what we do is we teach people how to create you got to capture wealth. So we call it a wealth coordination account, and you need to, not going to stay there. It's just a holding tank to move money into, so you get used to paying yourself first. Okay. So that's principle 1. See, so now I'll leave it at that. So, and we'll come back to that. Right now, that's not important where it goes. It's just that you need to save it. Okay. And so the second principle is maximum protection. So this is so important because, see, most people skip this step, right? You have to play defense. I was just on a phone with a client before we were recording, I said, listen, what could happen to you to derail your plan from you reaching your objectives? You could get sick, you could die, you could get sued, you could have a fire, you could, it's all kinds of stuff. So, and you can't, it's like Allstate. You can't come home and your house is on fire and you call Jake from Allstate, hey, I need some fire insurance, right? So you got to have this stuff in place before it happens. So what happens is we slow down and we make people, we have a little tool we call our personal financial snapshot. So we create a 1-page game plan for people to kind of show them where they are, and then, where they are when we met, where you are when we get done. And then now it becomes really helpful because when we do our annual reviews, you can see your growth. And so I don't let people skip that. So we go over their auto, their home, your business liability. Should you have an umbrella policy? Yes. Okay. Do you have disability? Well, what's the definition of disability? Which is a really important question because you can have it and it may not do what you think it's supposed to do. We look at your medical insurance. Have you worked long enough to qualify for medical benefits? Then we get into your estate planning. See, you have to, do you have a will? Do you have minor kids? You probably need a trust. Okay. Not to give legal advice. So I don't do all this stuff. We have, business is a team sport, but I'm the quarterback, right? I'm the general practice physician and I'm going to make sure these things get covered. And then we get people to or I work with your specialists if we're on the same page because Curtis is the lead dog. Mm-hmm. All right. Just so we're clear. And, so, do you have the proper entities set up? Are you observing that? Do you have LLCs? Are you making money? Should you switch that to the S election? We'll talk with that with your accountant, and then life insurance. Most people in life insurance are underinsured. I was talking to this guy who was 35. I said, well, how much does it cost? How much do I need? You don't need insurance. It's what do you want? Right. So I said, all right, you're 34. You make 115,000, take your annual income, multiply it by 25. That's how much they'll let you have. That's called your human life value, economic life value. So if you're over 40, it should be your annual income times 20. If you're over 50, it's times 15. And over 60 is times 10, or they'll net worth and some other things going on. So that's what you want to do. And so we want to make sure live, die, get sick, get sued, you're protected. So a lot of people skip that stuff. I mean, even sometimes not having the
small
liability. Yeah, especially small businesses, because everybody does everything. You're bootstrapping. You think it's going to keep you from this stuff. Oh, this will never happen. I'll just right up until it does. Right. And so you have to play this. So that's major. First, my time on is saving and protection. Okay. And then we talk about legacy, right? Full replacement of assets at death, because nobody gets out of here alive. So you want to make sure that, like if you're a sole proprietorship and you die, your business is done. Like the account's closed. You have to be an entity just so it could live on without you, right? Do you have a trust? Do you have adequate life insurance? Do you have a will? Do you have, if you're buying term and investing a difference? Well, okay, most people outlive the term. Less than 2% of all policies ever pay a death claim. Statistically, right? And so I told him, look, you're 30, you get a 30-year term, you'll be 60, right? So the odds of you living to 60 are pretty good and not dying, right? But between 60 and 100, what's the chances of you dying? 100%, right? It's as far as I know, it's 100%, right? And so, but there's a whole school of thought that tells you, well, buy term, invest a difference, and when you have all this money in a fluctuating stock market where the dollar's going down, you're going to have all this money and you don't need insurance no more. And I'll say to people, listen, if you have a house, so let's say your mortgage is paid off, and would you drop your homeowner's insurance?
No.
No. Okay. Because even if your house is worth 500,000, you have 500,000 set aside to cover it. If you just set aside for that, would you be comfortable using that 500,000 for somewhere else? Mm-hmm. No, because you had that as kind of your sinking fund to cover house repair. So insurance gives you permission to use your money other places because you're transferring risk. to the insurance company. So people look at it, they look at it as an expense. No, good investor invests without insurance. They don't just jump out of a perfect airplane without a parachute. So that's for a place of assets. Principle 4. So this is the fun part. Now what do you do with the savings? So what is the goal of savings? You have to build, their first goal is 6 to 12 months of liquidity, right? Most COVID has proved, think about that, right? That, what's supposed to be a 2-week, let's flatten the curve, is still over a year, and you got to prepare for that, for emergencies. So my typical look, at least 90 days, personal and business, right? You separate, because you have to separate church and state. So right now I'm talking in general, but we actually do cash flow match for business owners and personal, so we can see where your money's going and how do you get money out of the business into your household. A lot of people struggle with that. Okay. And so I have a separate service called cash flow mapping where we go into that and we break that down. So that might even before I get to principle 1, because I need to figure out where your damn money's going, right? And separate church and state. So but what you want to do is the first 90 days, I tell people, is your emergency fund. And everything past that is your opportunity fund. So now you're like, I heard Jay Abraham say, like, you want to see yourself like a little hedge fund, right? You're looking for stuff to do, new businesses to acquire, whether it's your money or a combination of debt or financing, because you don't want to get out of debt. You need to get, and there's good debt and bad debt. So debt is money, right? The way the current monetary system is. So you're not trying to get out of debt. Please stop it. Stop all that. I'm going to get a 15-year mortgage, pay, extra on my mortgage bi-week. All that is a complete waste of money in today's monetary system.
Very simply, just for our listeners who haven't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad and all this kind of stuff.
What? Who hasn't done that?
My wife.
I haven't,
What?
but
Okay.
I live with someone who talks about it all the time.
Nonstop.
So I consider myself as almost like a
We'll give
reader
you a
of
pass.
it.
Yes, we'll give you a pass.
But
She has a Cliff Notes version.
I do. I live with the Cliff Notes.
Right.
I live with him. Anyway, but can you
Yes.
explain to our listeners just very briefly the difference between good debt and bad debt? I know we have this discussion with our boys all the time.
Yeah. So what happens is I call it constructive and destructive, right? So if you pay for it,
I like that.
it's bad debt.
I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that from you.
That's all good. 'Cause I'm sure I stole it from somebody. So it's you should buy assets. So don't use debt for stuff. Like a house is a house. See, because it goes back to Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's really a book about accounting, right? And so what is an asset? Something that puts money in your pocket. What is a liability? Something that takes money out of your pocket. So if you're going to go out, use debt, buy assets, something that pays you, and the cash flow from that pays the payment. The tenants pay the payment. The business pays the payment. Whereas if you go buy a bigger house, I have a client just bought a huge house, beautiful, but I was like, I don't know if I'd have done that, because it's like, well, the payment's only $5,000 a month. I was like, okay, but how much is the house making you? And you got to light it, you got to heat it, you got to, or the car, unless you can run the car through your business. All of these things are drags on you becoming financially free because you go to work for the bank. Right. And so good debt, if you're using debt as leverage to acquire something without you having to use your money, that's good debt.
You're saying, if I'm breaking it down for you real quick, you're saying the idea is to take your modest income, live below your means, save some money, but we're not saving the money in the traditional sense of squirreling it away in a coffee can, burying it in the backyard, and never digging it up. Your ancestors will dig it up.
I want
someday.
like a week or two in the coffee can.
Right.
If I really break it down,
absolutely.
I don't have a problem with that, right?
Absolutely.
And,
you want that emergency fund, which you
yeah.
talked about. And then what you want to do is work on your education, your knowledge base. You want to grow that. And then once you have the knowledge base to be able to acquire assets using leverage and some of the cash that you've saved, then you want to do that before you go buying the toys. And by the way, a house and a car and a boat are toys.
Yes.
But what you want to do is build enough cash flow, enough wealth through your assets that the assets pay for your toys. And when you're in that scenario, correct me if I'm wrong, when you're in that scenario, there's nothing wrong with buying the house because you've built such a substantial wealth building portfolio of assets that they'll pay for those things.
Yes, buy an asset to pay for your toys, your
Yes.
vacations, your this and that.
So I think a lot of people, when they hear this message, which is, luckily becoming more mainstream, let's be honest. I think a lot of people, when they hear this message, all they hear is like, don't buy crap. Don't buy a nice house. Don't buy a nice car. No, don't buy a nice boat. And no one is saying that. I don't know anyone that is saying that.
I am
they're
not the
saying
party.
is,
I'm not the party pooper.
Right.
Right. So I want you to go on vacation 2 or 3 times a year. See, I don't think you can't scrimp your way to financial freedom.
Yeah.
If you are the owners, you're the number one asset. So Dan Sullivan from Strategic Coach says, until you learn to double your time off, you will never double your income. And so, because when you go away, your mind is freed up, you recharge, you have to recharge. You can't go all the time. Right. And so I like living within your means, but I want you to focus on expanding your means. And that's what I mean. How do you make more money? Serve more people, solve more problems for more people. So you have to think about, money is a result of creating value in the marketplace. People say, I need to make more money. Well, money is a byproduct. Money is the end. So you can't just want to make more money. You got to say, well, okay, how can I serve more people more efficiently? It's improper, more better, right? And but that has to be, so now you have an abundance philosophy.
Yeah, so what you're really saying, Curtis, is that it's not an either or proposition. You're not saying not to buy nice things and go on nice vacations. You're just saying to build the assets first and let the assets pay for these things.
Listen, enjoy your life and just focus on making more money, but you should go. I'm going on my 3rd vacation next week.
Good for you.
This year. Right. And also what it does is making sure that you build a business that works so you don't have to work all the time. See, if you can't do that, you're not in business. You just own a job.
Yeah. That gets into building a team, something we talk about quite often.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And so that's what you have to do. See, if you're going to make the business a real asset, then you have to grow. And you've got the liquidity so you can keep applying stuff. You know how to read numbers. You have what we call the 3 E's. This is out of Rich Dad's 3rd book, Rich Dad's Guide to Investing: education, experience, and excessive cash. So, because you have excessive cash, but you don't have the experience or education, you're going to blow your money, right? Yeah. And so, and the 5th principle, most importantly, is velocity. So we already talked about the velocity method, but what we do is we track your liquidity. And what I want you and what our clients to focus on is your business and personal liquidity and your business cash flow and your investment cash flow. And when you have passive income greater than expenses, you're financially free. You don't have to stop, but you can stop, right? We're calling that in our system our goal is to get people to a position we call of FU, right? Of where you can do what you want, when you want. And I think that most business owners, that's their goal. They work ultimately to create, at some point in their career, work optional income. And that's what those principles are designed to drive people towards. That's kind of a long answer, but
no, that's okay. We appreciate that. That's amazing. I have a feeling most of our audience is going to rewind that and listen to it again. And they should, for sure. So let me ask you a question. When it comes to risk tolerance, people have different levels of risk tolerance. When we were talking about don't pay off your house, don't pay off your car, don't, whatever, use that money for other investments. People have different risk tolerances. I know there's a certain, I don't know if personality trait is the right way to put it, that just really sleeps well at night knowing that they don't have a mortgage or that they have whatever car they have, they paid cash for. And there's some lost opportunity there, right? Meaning you're tying up that cash. How do you balance that when you're giving someone advice that doesn't have that level of risk tolerance that maybe I have, for example, which is a little higher?
My risk tolerance is 0. Okay. So Warren Buffett's first rule is don't lose money. Okay. And the second rule is don't forget rule number 1. And so, but the idea, see, to me, I look at it. So if you have $100,000 in cash and $100,000 of debt, you're not in debt. You have debt. But if you could stroke a check to pay for it, then you're borrowing out of opportunity versus necessity. But to answer your question, it's I don't give advice. I show people how money works. And so if that's what you want, yes, there's some opportunity costs associated with that, but okay. You know, if that helps you sleep, I mean, the numbers don't work, but at the end of the day, you know, if your listeners, they're successful and that's what they want, then pay it off. Just understand that there's some opportunity costs there, but it's not the worst thing in the world. I don't really jump. I just try to show them. I have some videos on, you know, while, you know, being what I call balance sheet debt free. And then really, I don't think personal finance does a good job of breaking down opportunity costs, like what the money would have been worth had you been able to use it somewhere else. And I think if you start to understand certain principles, you will get more comfortable with that. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm going to show you, I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm going to teach you to think. The root word, the Latin word of the root of educate is educe, which is to draw out. So I think the answers are there because money's not that complicated. And so I try when I walk people through our planning process, I try to go over the principles and show them why, you know, certain financial things, they just don't know how they work. And then, you know, does that make sense? And do you think that this will help you? Yes, I do. And then we might have a product for that. So products are literally not, the products are just tools of implementation. They should be a result of your knowledge, not a substitute for it, because there's no product in the financial industry that's going to take you to glory financially. That's just not what they're designed to do, contrary to popular opinion.
Do a lot of people come to you and want you to make decisions for them?
Yes.
I would think they would. I would think they would be like, you're the expert, tell me what to do. And you're like, no, I won't do that.
That's a lot quicker than educating yourself, getting educated.
I had to learn, there's a great book by Trey Gowdy called Never Hush to Ask. So I'm a trainer for this strategy that we teach personal planning. And it's like, I was teacher, you know, Mr., you know, I have the answers. Let me show you how this works. And it was a lot of discipline to, you know, so when I train people, I was like, my goal is what I call 70-30. 70% you're talking, 30%, you know, so any of my first meetings, so I don't even give advice. I don't give advice. It's like try meeting you and telling you what to do in one meeting. You know, what's it called? Prescription without diagnosis is malpractice, right? So I have no idea. I don't know what your goals, because products aren't the solution. There's no magic mutual for all the products. Let me just go here for a second. So let's say, for example, here's why the accumulation theory doesn't work, because the objective of the financial industry is not to make you rich. True. Okay. Their goal is assets under management. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. You just need to know their agenda, and you got to have your agenda and make sure they mesh, because all financial products, all of them, okay, are built with these 4 rules in mind. So let's say, Carla, what if let's say you were Vanguard, okay? And you're trying to get me to put money in your account, or Wells Fargo. Yeah. You're creating marketing because you want me to give you my money. How often?
I want it to come directly out of your paycheck, so you don't even think about it.
So I don't even think about it, right? So it's automatic. How long do you want me to leave it there?
Forever.
And so you never want me to take it out.
Right.
So every product that Wall Street manufacturers or the banks manufacture, even insurance companies, are designed with those 4 rules. The goal is to become financially free, passive income, greater expenses, but they only want you to get your money out of the account. So you see, there's a disconnect. So, but how do they get you to do what they want you to do?
They send you little reports showing how much your money's growing with them.
Right. And so you're marketed to, you're not educated.
Yeah.
Right. Most people don't get financial education, they get financial indoctrination. And it's designed for employees that really don't want to think. So everybody wants an easy button. It's work becoming financially independent. I hate to tell you. Okay. It's work to build a business, to build a laundromat. You have to bust your butt. You got to think about it. You got to be stressed out. Your spouse has to be on board. You know, you've got to learn how to work. We talked about on our show that you did this on the side for what, 5 or 6 years,
Yeah.
right? Save the money. And so it's no all bright lights and glamour. I mean, you know, and so it takes time to learn how to become an expert. And so I'm sorry, you know, all this microwave and I'm going to be on IG in front of my Bentley or my Lamborghini and on my, that's, you know, it don't work that way, folks. And,
Little tough love from Curtis
yeah,
today.
I mean, listen, you gotta,
good for you.
you have to work. Okay. And you got to work, save, you got to understand how money works. You got to be a good steward of your money, and you have to serve your clients or customers. I like clients because clients, I had somebody want to try to tell me what to do. I said, listen, you know, I have clients and not customers because clients ain't always right. The customer's always right. I have clients. Okay. You ain't always right. All right. And clients means to put under one's protection. So I have clients. That's what I mean. It's really simple. You know, 5 principles, 3 rules of investing. That's all I teach. Now, through that, there are some products that need to get done, but the products, again, are a result that fit my principles. It's not where I'm just pulling stuff out of the air, if that makes sense.
I don't know if I completely understand. So you said one of the things that it's one of your products, but is life insurance, but it's liquid.
Yeah, so it's a strategy. So what happens is most people don't know how insurance works. So there's 2 types of insurance, term and permanent.
Yes.
It's really 3: term, whole life, and universal life, life insurance.
Yes.
And so you can structure a life insurance for liquidity, where a lot of times we can get 50, 60 cents out of every dollar first year in the cash value.
Okay.
So let's say for somebody's put in $10,000, paying $10,000 a year premium, we can get like 6,000, 62, 6,500 of it, sometimes more, in the cash the first year. Well, you can now leverage that. In the second or third year, depending on the age of the person, you pay 10, it goes up by 10. And it's a saving strategy. It's a superior place to store cash. It's not an investment.
Okay.
It's just a place to store cash. And then what happens is, you can leverage your savings. You can borrow the insurance company's money, and you can buy business equipment. You know, we've got clients that borrow against, you know, the strategy is called Becoming Your Own Banker. And we just mimic the banking model of how banks handle money. We just teach you how to employ that in your personal and business economies, right? Because 35 cents of every dollar you make leaves your household in the form of debt to others. And so one of the things that we teach, most people think they have to invest. The key to growing your wealth is investing. I take the completely opposite tack. See, most people give most of their money away. 1, because they don't manage cash flow. And 2, through wealth transfers, right? How you pay your mortgage, taxes, how you fund retirement plans, how you pay for kids' education, and how you pay for what we call major capital purchases, anything you can't pay for in full within monthly cash flow. There's more money lost in those 6 things I just named than you'll ever make trying to pick winners, right? And so if you've got a bucket, it's got holes in it. Let's plug the holes first. So the first thing that we focus on, people, is efficiency. Okay, where's your money going? Let's look at your cash flow. Are you optimizing that? Is your stuff priced right? Right? Then we're looking at your insurances, your debt, your fees. So we talked about, Dave, we were talking about marketing last time, is when you look at a business, it's 3 ways to grow revenue, only 3, right? Get more customers, increase your conversions, increase customer values. So you can grow that way, right? But you can also look at, okay, well, is your rent negotiated right? Do you have good loans? Are you overpaying for insurance? Are your deductibles too low? There's a lot of, you know, stuff. And so if you can come and do either one of those or both, you can increase your profitability just by paying more attention. So instead of you're trying to go out and hit a home run, let's, you know, plug the holes in the bucket first.
I like that.
So that's what does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
I have somewhere on YouTube where I talk about that strategy.
Okay.
It's called Intro to Private Family Banking. If you go to my YouTube channel, or if you reach out or email me, I will send you some information on it. We can talk about it, because it's an hour talking about that in of itself.
Okay.
The author of the strategy, Nelson Nash, used to teach. There's a book called Becoming Your Own Banker, and it's a 91-page book. And he used to teach a 2-day, 10-hour workshop on this 10-hour book. So people want to hear about it in like an hour. It's like, okay, all I can do is like the preamble of the Declaration of Independence. You know, we hold these truths to be self-evident. All I'm doing is giving you your preamble. Like now I know the whole Constitution of this system, but you know, it's hopefully you're curious and you want to know more. And then he has a book called A Case for IBC, Infinite Banking Concept. And what happens is it really is structured for business owners, right? How to succeed from the monetary system, one business at a time. So we kind of teach you how to create an alternative source of financing, so you're not just beholden to the banks, because you can get behind and now they want a personal guarantee, and all of a sudden you're working for the bank and you could lose everything. And so you have to kind of free yourself from that bondage. And that's short as I can say it.
Awesome. Awesome. Fantastic.
So I have a question. So throughout this, you have referred to so many like well-known people and books and everything. What if I decide, okay, I want to read just 2 books? What are the first 2 books that you would tell me are the most important to start with? If I want to get to financial freedom, what would you recommend?
Richest Man in Babylon.
Okay. And do you know who that's by?
By George Clason.
Okay.
So it's written in parables, but if you will listen to it, it will give you everything you need to do. And because your people are looking for, what is this great product, or how do I flip? You know, it's not about that. It's about being a good steward of your money. Okay. And then I still start people with Rich Dad, Poor Dad, because it's different. So it's literally it's a book about accounting. So financial literacy is not investing. Financial literacy is the ability to read numbers, to ability to read your financial statements, your income statement, your P&L, and your balance sheet, your assets and your liabilities. And so if you can't read that, you'll always be lost. You know, even if as a good investor, you're investing in other people's, you got to read their financial statements, but you have to start with your business. Or if you can't manage your own budget, then if you get in a business, that's just a disaster waiting to happen.
You know, I'm going to take this opportunity because it just seems like too great of an opportunity. You just teed it up for me here, Curtis. My book I have coming out very soon, called Laundromat Millionaire, The Grit to Elevate an Industry, is our journey. It's our life of doing exactly what you describe, from going from corporate America of a telephone company lineman and a school teacher, and the tough path that we went through, and the sacrifices and the due diligence and the delayed gratification that it took, those 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years that it took to get to the other side of the rainbow. The things that you're talking about, I think a lot of times in the investing and business world, we just say, well, don't be an employee. That's stupid. Do this. Or don't do this, do that. And a lot of times there's a lot of people out there in the world that are like, how do I do that? And I know I've been there. Yeah. I've been there personally. And I learned through a lot of the resources that you're talking about, podcasting and magazines and books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And no one resource is going to teach you everything you need to know. It's ultimately on you as an independent thinking person to focus on your education, to put yourself in the way of mentors and advisors like Curtis. And so I hope that people will take the opportunity to get that book, not because I'm trying to pitch a book, but because I really want to change. I want to show people at least my story. I can't speak to other people's stories. I can just speak to mine. And that's what we really want to do. It's what we're passionate about. So I think that's important to do. Do you have? Yeah,
success leaves clues, right? Mm-hmm. And so what I try to do, and what we pull out when you're on my show, is what I'm trying to show people the path. Like you'll see, what I call the threads of success in people's fabric of their life. Mm. And so we talk about the principles: hard work, do unto others, have to do unto you, living within your expanses, but expanding your, within your means, but expanding your means. Those are principles. So that's when you say, I don't really get into products. At some point you need products, but it's really that, right? And so it's your money. So you gotta, it's work. And so you're showing that it's work. And all I try to do is say, listen, here is on different industries, business, real estate, paper, commodities. Here's what people do. Okay. So pick your lane but the work is the same. You're going to bust your butt. I hate to tell you, and, you're going to bust your butt. And so guess what? That's why there's 1%ers and 99%ers. It's not that there's something wrong out there. It's that because when people talk about the wealth gap, I have a video somewhere. I called it, what people don't talk about is the behavior gap behind what the 1%ers do and the 99%ers do. And so, if you follow around a rich person, you'll start to see they do stuff differently. They think differently, right? And say, or you can just follow a poor person and don't do what they do, right? And
you probably should do both. And you probably should do both,
right? And so, and it's not that. My whole message, guys, is not that complicated. But you gotta to work. And all I try to do is, look, here's some basic stuff. Now we measure it, and I'm going to show you how to implement stuff. But it's your money. I'm the guide. But you have to. I'm Obi-Wan. You're Luke.
I suggest you try it again, Luke. This time, let go your conscious self and act on instinct.
So
that's
I'm just letting you know the force exists. And okay, you
got to figure out how to use it.
Right. You got to figure out how to use it. You have to go through the training to become a Jedi.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Well, listen, Curtis, thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. If you guys haven't checked out his YouTube channel, his podcast is called The Practical Wealth Show with Curtis May. What's your YouTube channel? Is it just Curtis May or Practical Wealth?
So I just Google. Do you do a search on The Practical Wealth Show? There's enough shows in there that it will come up, and then just subscribe. And we try to do 1 or 2 videos out, and it just shows. A lot of times I'm doing screen shares, and I want to teach a lesson. That because a lot of this stuff is visual, like the banking stuff, and so I try to teach a lesson. But yeah, so that's a really good way to kind of interact with me and follow the show, or and then if you get so inclined, you can reach out and we can have a chat.
Yeah, absolutely. So if they wanted to reach out to you and learn more about your services and be mentored, is probably a good word by you, because like you said, you're not doing it for them. You're teaching them how to do it themselves. How can they contact you?
So I'll give you 2 ways. So one, you can go to our in the show notes in all of my podcasts. There's a link to schedule a free complimentary consultation. That's it. And our website, you can go to practicalwealthadvisor.com, click apply to work with Curtis, and it'll again give you opens up my Google Calendar, and we can talk, no obligation. Also, I'm an educator at heart, so I'm going to give you all if I did this right, it should work. And I'm going to give you a report called The Value of Liquidity. So I want to really go deeper in the principle 4, and it's going to set up the bank and the product works. And I want you to text Be the Bank, BETHEBANK, to 55444. And then that should send you my report. It'll put you on my email list, and we will probably give you some emails and some other just follow up with some videos on that kind of stuff. And then if you're so inclined, you want to hear how to do it, and how, from a person that understands business, how do you integrate it into your business economy, your personal economy. And also, if you will, from the text, or if you'll email me at kurtmay@gmail.com, I have a list of my favorite books already, so if you reply, hey, I heard you on Dave's show, and can you send me that list of recommended reading? And I haven't created a landing page for it yet, so just email me, and I will we'll send it out to you. And it's I have to update, because I'll probably read 2 books a month at least. And but it'll get you started, and it needs to be lifelong learning. So just just go out there and you just work at your game and keep getting better, keep learning stuff. And you've got to get educated so you can separate what I call the wheat from the chaff, separating facts from somebody's sales pitch. That's my number 1 goal, because there's so much noise out there. And so you have to be able to separate the noise from what is true and what is true for you. Because everybody's different. You're all little special snowflakes, right? So you all have your own individual plan.
All unique and different.
Right.
Well, listen, thank you so much for taking the time today. You hit so many different resources and videos, and we appreciate you sharing all that. So I know people want to rewind, but guys, we're going to do our best because this episode was so packed full of information and you know what I call the heart of a servant teaching. So we appreciate you being who you are, Curtis, and for taking the time to share that today. But we're going to do our best to put as many of those links in the show notes as we possibly can, obviously to his website, and we'll include your email and all those things so that they can get in touch with you. But we're going to try to find some of the videos that you reference in there and drop them in the links. We want to make it as easy as possible for the audience to find the resources that you are pointing out in the show. So thank you so much for taking the time to do this today. And for our audience, we're getting ready to wrap up season 1 of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Wow. And so we're excited about that, but we're also excited to just plow forward in a really hard way because we've got some amazing episodes coming for you in season 2. So until next time, thank you all for being here today and take care.